Hi, and welcome to Ivy English. I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
Today, we're talking about the making of a typhoon. So we're going to find out how typhoons form. But our title is interesting. It's because it says it's the making of a something. And when you say the making of something, you're discussing the process of it. How is it made? But usually we're using this to describe like a manufactured object. So it's not wrong to use it for typhoon. You absolutely can. It's just more interesting because you're not expecting it to be this word typhoon. You're expecting it to be a manufactured object. So it's like amusing to use it as a title.
好，那我们先告诉各位，这一篇文章中文标题是台风快报，台风如何生成报给你知。那刚刚 Angela 老师讲到这个英文标题里面 The making of a typhoon， 这个 making 这个字用得很有趣啊。那因为当然 making 它指的是制作的过程啊，那通常它是指一个物体啊，一个生产出来的物品啊 ，the manufactured object。好，所以它后面是可以接台风，只是一般人看到 making， 那后面想到的不会是台风这种东西。
But it's not just making, it's the phrase, the making of a thing.
所以主要是 the making of something 啊，通常会让人想到是一个 object， 它制作的一个过程啊，它怎么样做成的，怎么样形成的。好，那所以后面加了一个台风，还蛮有趣的。
So let's find out how typhoons are made. And I was going to say, and then we know how to stop them, but nothing can stop a typhoon.
No.
Okay. Typhoons are large tropical storms made up of rain and high-velocity winds. They originate in the Northwest Pacific and often travel westward towards Asia. Taiwan is sometimes hit by typhoons, which can cause landslides on mountain slopes and damage to homes. But how exactly do they form? The first requirement for a typhoon to form is that an area of water on the ocean's surface needs to be above 26 degrees Celsius. This water will originate in the tropics or subtropics. The warm water evaporates, creating warm and moist air above it. The moisture is light and moves upward. It then makes contact with cold air and forms clouds. When the warm air rises, air from surrounding areas rushes in to take its place. The warm water makes the new air become warm and humid. The air then moves upward in a spiraling motion and forms more clouds. More air pushes into the area to fill a deficit of air near the surface. This process continues, and the storm gets bigger and stronger. A space of clear weather forms in the center as the storm rotates faster and faster. This is known as the eye of the storm. The weather within the eye is peaceful, while the eye wall directly surrounding it is the fiercest. This process of air being fed into the tropical storm by warm ocean water continues while wind speeds increase. When wind speeds reach 119 kilometers per hour, the storm is classified as a typhoon. Typhoons weaken as they hit land, since they can no longer draw energy from the ocean. Typhoons are called by different names depending on where they originate. For example, in the Northeast Pacific and the northern half of the Atlantic Ocean, they are known as hurricanes, while in the southern hemisphere, they are called tropical cyclones. Okay, I like this article so much because I have learned this process before, but I think that they do a really good job of explaining clearly how it works. This is actually how a little bit similar to how, what do you call them? Tornadoes in the Midwest form. It's the same thing, that air is rising in a spiral form and it gets fed by the sort of cycle of replacement of the air. I don't know. I think it's really cool because you think of weather as something that just happens to you, right? It's just a thing that's around you. But actually air and water, which is what most weather is made up of, and the electricity as well, is just stuff that's around us, and that stuff has behaviors that work on a physics level. And so the physics of how these stuff behave is going to be predictable. And so I don't know. I think that meteorology, which is the study of weather, is actually a pretty fun field to go into.
好，所以呢，这个 Angela 老师说呢，他觉得其实很有趣啊，因为我们本来以为说天气只是围绕着我们的一些现象，但是事实上，天气主要的一些成分，例如说空气啊、水啊，还有电荷，那这些东西呢，其实都是物质啊，它们也具有物质的一些特性，所以其实我们是可以去研究、可以去预测、可以去理解天气的现象的啊，所以他认为说气象学应该是一个很有趣的一个领域。
So let's go through our article and talk about the grammar. Typhoons are large tropical storms made up of rain and high-velocity winds. So tropical means, of course, everything that's in the middle belt of the planet, the warmest belt. And if something is made up of something, it means it has those elements inside it, or it is created from those elements. So a sandwich is made up of bread, lettuce, meat, cheese, and mayonnaise, for instance. It's not made from these things. Paper is made from wood.
好，那 made up of 就是由什么所组成的，好，通常 be made up of， 它有一个跟它意思很像的，也蛮常见的一个片语是 to be composed of something 啊。那 composed 就是 composed 啊，那它是由什么所组成的？那刚刚 Angela 老师提到另外一个to be made from something 那是由什么所做成的意思。那只是说如果用 from 的话呢，那通常我们讲文法上面就说本质或者是外观上已经改变了所以已经不是同一个东西了。那例如说你这个某些化学元素它会组成另外一个东西，那个时候你看不出来那些化学元素，那就是 from。那在这里呢这个台风你还是看得到雨，还是有那个风，所以它是 made up of。And
I have one more preposition because I notice that ESL speakers have this problem. It can't be made by rain. Because by is the person who's doing the thing. So bread is made from wheat. A sandwich is made of bread and filling. And the sandwiches made by my mother are the best.
好，所以呢，另外还有一个可能后面加介系词加 by， 那 by 后面它是一个行为者所以通常是个人。所以刚刚 Angela 老师举了一个例子这个面粉是 made from 由麦子所做成的，然后呢做成面粉那接下来呢，那三明治呢它是由面包所 made of 的，因为你还是看得出来面包在那边，然后加了其他的东西，但是它是由师傅做成的，所以 made by 一个面包师傅所以这几个介系词弄清楚。那我们再回来看看这个句子其他部分，他说台风呢是很大的热带性的 tropical 就是热带性的 storms， 所以台风通常指的就是热带性的风暴 tropical storms。 那这些热带性的风暴是由什么所组成的呢？有 rain 有雨水，还有呢 high velocity winds high velocity 就是高速的， velocity 就是 speed 的意思，它比较正式一点通常在讲到物理现象的时候或者比较正式的时候都会用到 velocity 这个字。那例如我们讲说 the velocity of sound 就是声速或者音速，那或者是 the velocity of light 就是光速那或者你在测量那个子弹的速度，你也可以说 the velocity of a bullet bullet 那都是指速度。所以这里呢他说台风是由雨还有高速的风所形成的。
So they, meaning typhoons, originate in the Northwest Pacific and often travel westward towards Asia. If somebody originates in a place, that means they're from that place. So typhoons originate in the Northwest Pacific. So the Northwest Pacific is immediately to the east of Taiwan and China. Actually, And if you look at weather maps when typhoons are forming, there's basically a belt. Like one time I saw 5 typhoons in like a belt, all heading towards first the Philippines and then Taiwan. And I'm like, okay, so there's a typhoon-making belt right there along the equator.
Yeah. 所以有一个所谓的台风带那就是Angela 说其实我们也看过有的时候好几个台风都沿着那个台风带往菲律宾往台湾这边来。
Yeah.
所以他说呢，这个 they 就是指是台风 originate in 就是发源于哪里开始于哪里，开始于 the Northwest Pacific 就是西北太平洋。然后呢他们常常会 travel 在这里可以说理解成为行进的意思，他们会行进然后呢 westward 往西边走 towards 就是朝向 Asia 亚洲。
Taiwan is sometimes hit by typhoons. We use the word hit for storms and typhoons. You know, what's funny is I've never found a word that translates very well, storm, to Chinese. Like in Chinese, I don't know of a word that we use the way we use storm in English. Because a typhoon to us is a kind of storm. And we have thunderstorms, we have lightning storms, and we have typhoons and cyclones or whatever. So we always talk about stormy weather or there's a storm coming. But I don't know exactly how to say that in Chinese.
好，通常中文讲到 storm 通常讲暴风雨可是我们用暴风雨的那个情况好像跟英文的用 storm 的方法这个或者是上下文不是完全一样有的时候差不多有的时候不是完全一样。那例如说这个如果英文的话可以讲 snowstorm 那但是中文的话大概就后面改一个是暴风雪所以好像没有一个像英文一样一个 storm 可以跟很多字搭配然后形成很多不同的意思。不过这显然就本来就是两个语言的不同。
But we always talk about being hit by storms. And so we can be hit by a typhoon because it comes in and it feels like, whomp, now you're in trouble. And the reason you're in trouble is because these storms can cause landslides. And that's because the mountain gets so wet that the land starts getting liquidy and it easily slides down. Also, there's the wind. And so landslides happen on mountain slopes, the slopey part of the mountain. How do you say slope without saying slope? Right.
Yeah. Oh, in English?
In English.
Incline?
The inclines, but yeah, you only use that word in physics.
Yeah.
There's only one word for mountain slopes, and that's slopes. And so these landslides can cause damage to homes and roads. And the typhoon also can cause damage to homes and roads. But I've noticed that, building technology in the last 20 years has gotten so good that I feel like typhoons aren't really as damaging as they used to be. On the other hand, we haven't got hit by a typhoon in Taiwan for I don't know, it feels like 4 years. I'm going to knock wood right now.
Yeah.
Knock, knock, knock. Because because as soon as you say something like that, you regret it.
Yeah, 好，所以呢，这个地方我们看到，他说台湾呢有的时候会 is hit by typhoons。这个 hit 翻成中文我们会讲侵袭英文这个当然是打击的意思那所以英文可以说台湾被台风 hit， 但是呢，中文的话我们会讲说侵袭所以台风有的时候会遭受这个 by 可以翻成遭受，台湾有的时候会遭受台风的侵袭which can cause 它可能会造成 landslides 就是山崩或者坍方on mountain slopes 就是在山坡上面 mountain 是山 slopes 就是坡然后呢同时它会 它 cause 两件事情一个是 landslides 一个是 damage那 landslides 是山坡上会山崩，那 damage 它是 to homes。 那注意那个介系词damage to something 就是表示对什么什么造成损失所以这个 to 后面接的是受到损失的那个苦主那例如你可以讲 the damage to the car is very slight 的车子没有受到什么损伤，很轻微的损伤 S-L-I-G-H-T the damage to the car is very slight。 那 damage 另外要注意它指损失的时候它是不可数的，如果你加 s 的话 damages 通常它的意思是赔偿金所以意思已经不一样了，赔偿金是 damages， 但你如果讲损失的话通常这个 damage 是不加 s 的。
That's a case where the S is so important.
Yeah.
Okay, but how exactly do they form?
好 form 是形成， they 是指台风，所以台风到底是怎么形成的呢？
Well, the first requirement for a typhoon to form, the first thing you have to have, so it's a requirement, is that an area of water on the ocean's surface needs to be above 26 degrees Celsius. You could also say over 26 degrees Celsius. So it has to be warmer than 26 degrees.
好，所以各位注意这个用法 The requirement for A to do B 就是让 A 要去做 B 这件事情有什么需要，有什么要求那他这里加了一个 first， 第一个要求你要让台风去 form 形成的第一个要求是怎么样？是 an area of water 就有一块水域有一个区块的海水 on the ocean's surface 就是海洋表面要有一块海水有一个区域的海水needs to 它必须要是在温度摄氏26度以上。
This water will originate or start from the tropics or subtropics, so it has to be, of course, the warm water.
呀，那这样的水呢，它将会一定是这样子的，一定会 originate in 就来自于发源于 the tropics 热带啊，或者是 subtropics 就是亚热带。
The warm water evaporates, so it turns into steam or mist. Steam is when it's from hot, and mist is from when it's cold. So it evaporates, it turns into water droplets in the air, and it creates warm and moist air above it. Moist is basically, it's halfway between dry and wet. If you have a moist cloth, it's not going to have water dripping out of it, and it's ideal for wiping.
好，所以 moist 是潮湿的意思啊，它不是干，但是也没有湿到会滴水那样子啊。好，所以这句说这个 warm 温暖的 water 指的是海水 ，evaporates 就是蒸发啊 ，evaporates。然后呢，分词告诉你，它在蒸发的时候，它就会 creating， 它会创造 warm 温暖，还有 moist 潮湿的 air 空气 above it， 啊，就是在这个水面上面创造出温暖潮湿的空气。
So the moisture is light and it moves upward. Moisture, the only thing you can say is moisture here. You can't say wetness and you can't say water vapor or whatever. It's just the condition of being wet. The air in the condition of being wet is light and it moves upward.
Yeah, 所以中文就是湿气啊，这个湿气 moisture is light 很轻啊，而且呢 moves 移动 upward 向上移动。
It then makes contact with cold air because the higher you go on the planet in the air, the colder the air gets. So going upwards means it gets colder. And as soon as it hits the cold air or makes contact with the cold air, it will of course form clouds.
好，那 it 就是这个潮湿又热的空气呢，就会往上之后呢，它会 makes contact with 就是和什么什么接触。好，英文也可以说 comes into contact with。好，那在这里我们用的是 makes contact with， 它和什么接触呢？和 cold air 冷空气，然后呢，因为这样子，所以就会 forms clouds 就会形成云。
And so when the warm air rises, air from surrounding areas, the areas around it, rushes in or hurries in to take its place, to replace it, because nature abhors a vacuum. You can't have something move out of somewhere and then just leave nothing there. There has to be something in there. So other air will naturally go in to the area where air is leaving from.
好，那刚刚 Angela 老师用了一个是 abhor 哈 ，abhor 哈，那个痛恨的意思哈，所以大自然呢痛恨真空，就是大自然不喜欢，它不允许真空的，只要有地方有出现真空，那个四周的空气就会去补那个地方的空气。所以这里讲到说，当这个 warm air 这个暖空气 rises 上升的时候呢 ，air 空气 from surrounding areas 来自于周围区域的空气就会 rushes in， 它会急急忙忙的冲进来啊，急忙进来 ，rush 是很匆忙很赶的进来。好，然后呢，为什么要 take its place 来取代上升的空气留下来的那个空缺？好，所以这样子这个地方才不会成为真空。
And then the same thing happens again. The warm water makes the new air, the air that's just come back in, become warm and humid.
那同样的事情又发生了，那个温暖的海水 the warm water makes 它会使这个 the new air 这个所谓新来的空气变得 warm 温暖，然后呢 humid 潮湿。
The air then moves upward in a spiraling motion, so it doesn't go straight up, it'll go up in a corkscrew motion. And then forms more clouds.
好，然后呢，这个空气接着就会 move upward 往上移动。那可是呢，它会以一个什么样的方式来运动呢？以一个 spiraling 啊，就是回旋或者是这个螺旋形的 motion 就是运动，所以它往上运动的方式是螺旋往上运动。好，然后呢，它就会 forms 形成 more clouds 更多的云。
And so then more air pushes into the area. So this happens again. More air comes in to fill a deficit of air near the surface or the lack of air near the surface of the water. And so this process continues and the storm gets bigger and stronger.
好，然后呢，会有更多的空气 pushes into the area， 会推进进入这个区域哈，因为这个不断的空气往上，然后就会形成空缺，四周的空气就会往内推进入这个区域啊，目的是要来填补 fill 这一个 deficit 就是不足 of air， 因为中间的空气一直往上嘛，它上去之后就会有 空气不足，那周围空气就赶快进来补。好 near the surface， 那这个都在海面发生的啊。那这样的一个过程呢 continues 不断的持续，那 the storm 这个风暴就 gets bigger 越来越大，然后 gets stronger 越来越强。
So a space of clear weather, meaning like a sunny day kind of, forms in the center as the storm rotates or spins faster and faster.
Rotates 就是旋转，好，那 space 是一个空间 ，clear weather 是无云很晴朗的天气，所以有那么一个无云晴朗空气的空间，好，这样它这个空间会再怎么样，在中心形成，在这个风暴的中心形成，因为这是随着 as 是随着这个风暴呢，它会旋转 faster and faster， 它旋转越来越快，那就会中间就会有一个地方圆心的地方呢，就会形成一个无云晴朗的一个空间。
And this is known as the eye of the storm.
The eye of the storm 就是我们讲的暴风眼或者台风眼，所以这就是大家称的暴风眼或台风眼。
So the weather within the eye is peaceful, while the eye wall, the kind of wall created by the surrounding storm, directly surrounding it is the fiercest. So the worst place of the storm is just inside the eye wall.
所以呢，这个地方看到 fiercest 就是凶猛啊，所以他说呢 within the eye 在暴风眼之内的天气 is peaceful 很平和，但是呢那个 eye wall 就是眼墙啊，或者是台风的眼墙，眼睛的眼，那个墙壁的墙，就台风眼旁边的那一圈墙壁。台风眼内天气很平和，但是眼墙那个区域的天气呢是 the fiercest 啊，是最凶猛的，最强烈的。
So this process of air being fed into the storm,The way we say fed into here is like how machines are. If there's a thing that needs to be put into a machine for it to work and you continuously put it into the machine, we talk about feeding it into the machine, kind of like feeding a baby. So this air is being fed into the storm as the air keeps getting replaced near the surface of the ocean. So the process of air being fed into the tropical storm by warm ocean water continues,while wind speeds increase. So this is literally a vicious cycle.
没错，这是一个恶性循环。好，那所以我们看到这个句子，他说这样的一个过程 ，this process of 什么过程呢 ？Air 是空气，空气是 being fed into the tropical storm， 空气被不断的喂进，好像在喂东西一样，喂进这个热带风暴这样的一个过程。好，那这个地方英文是用 being fed into， 好，那中文的话，这个地方的 fed 其实有点像我们讲被卷进去那种感觉。好，这空气不断的被卷进这个热带风暴。好，那是由什么来喂呢？有什么东西使得这个空气被不断被卷进热带风暴呢？ By 是由这个 warm ocean water， 由热的海洋、温暖的海洋空气，把这个空气不断的让它卷进这个热带风暴。这样的一个过程 continues 会持续。那同时呢，风速 wind speeds 就会增加。
So when wind speeds reach 119 kilometers per hour, the storm is classified as a typhoon. If something is classified as something, it is officially decided that is what it is. Before it's classified as a typhoon, it's just a tropical storm.
好，那当这个风速呢 reach 到达每小时119公里的时候呢，这个 storm 这个风暴就被归类为 is classified as 就被归类为是个台风。
Typhoons weaken as they hit land, thank goodness, because or since they can no longer draw energy from the ocean. Since the whole process is created by having warm ocean water there, once you replace that with cooler land, it's going to weaken because they're not replacing the wind with new wind.
好，所以台风会 weaken 减弱 as they hit land. Hit land 在这里就是碰触陆地。他们接触陆地之后呢，他们就会减弱，因为他们 can no longer 再也不能 draw 就是吸取 energy from the ocean， 他们再也不能从海洋吸取这个能量了，所以他们就会减弱。
Typhoons are called by different names depending on where they originate, or kind of also depending on which country they're near.
Yeah, 好，所以台风呢，他们有不同的名字 ，they are called by different names, depending on 是什么而定呢 ？Where they originate， 看他们在哪里起源啊，那就会有不同的名字。
For example, in the Northeast Pacific, which is off the coast of the United States and Canada, and the northern half of the Atlantic Ocean, which is also off the coast of the United States and Canada and also Europe, they are known as hurricanes. While in the southern hemisphere, which is, where Australia and New Zealand are going to be the English-speaking countries there, they are called tropical cyclones. But this is different than what I've understood. I thought that in the Pacific, they're called typhoons, and the Atlantic, they're called hurricanes. But I don't know. I haven't looked this up. That's just my own definition.
好，所以其实这个不同的区域台风会有不同的名字。那他这里举几个例子，例如在东北太平洋还有在大西洋的北半部呢，台风的名字叫做 hurricanes， 所以在美国大概他们就是叫 hurricanes。然后呢，在南半球他们就被称为热带气旋 tropical cyclones。
So we have some questions here for you, of course. And number 1 is, which of the following statements is not true?
以下何者非真？
The answer is D. Typhoons are called tropical cyclones in the Northeast Pacific. This is not true.
好，第一这个选项是错的，因为这个选项说东北太平洋台风叫做 cyclones， 但不对，叫做 hurricanes， 所以这个答案这个选项错误，所以它是正确答案。
And number 2, according to the passage, which part of the typhoon is the most dangerous? And so you have to look at this picture here and choose A, B, C, or D.
好，那根据本文呢，台风哪一个部分最危险？
And the answer is C, because the wall of the eye is the most dangerous, fastest winds.
好，所以答案是 C， 就是眼墙这个地方，因为这地方是最危险的，它最接近这个台风眼。
And number 3, what happens when a typhoon reaches land?
那台风碰到陆地会怎么样呢？
The answer is B. It slowly loses power, but usually not slowly enough.
答案是 B， 它逐渐失去威力。
Okay, that's all the time we have for you today, but please join us again tomorrow or the next time for more Ivy English. Until then, bye-bye.